evening and welcome. It is time once again for CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM and UPTV. I will be your host for this evening. My name is Mr. Garza, and I am here to let you know that WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana-Champaign community. Views expressed are those of the speakers and are not intended to represent WRFU or UCIMC, or, as we like to say on this show, UPTV, because we are also on the air with UPTV. So none of these entities, WRFU, UCIMC, UPTV, can't hold them responsible for anything that I'm saying because it's just me and or whoever opinion I happen to be reading at the moment. But yeah, blame me. Go ahead, just blame me. Anyway, as I record this, this is tricky because hearing this on the radio, you're going to probably be hearing it tomorrow, Monday, the 5th. Watching this on UPTV, it's not going to be for a while because I have X number of episodes already recorded. The difference is that on the radio, it's an hour show. On the TV, it's a half an hour show. So for every hour show that I do, I get two half an hour TV shows. And so you can imagine that over time, those kind of stack up and fall further and further behind reality. So anyway, but just for the radio listening audience, it is now October 4th when I am speaking. It will be October 5th when the first person gets a chance to hear this. Currently, President Trump is in the hospital with coronavirus, and they say he's doing well. He says he's doing well. We can only hope that he's doing well. However, regardless of his current condition or what may possibly occur to him as a result of his illness, I have no intention of slacking off on my critiques of his administration or his approach to how he defines his job, which seems to be pretty offensive, and by offensive, well, I mean offensive both ways. He is offensive in the way that he speaks, and he is on the offense in the way that he behaves. And I can't not point that out and not respond to that and react to that as part of what I'm doing here, which is to draw your attention to the immigration situation in this country and how immigrants are being treated and how they're being spoken about and basically what's going on. It's always tricky when someone is suffering and potentially, who knows? I mean, he could die. Let's just be very clear. This could happen. They say, oh, he's going to be just fine. We're going to release him tomorrow, blah, 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 whatever they're saying. And that could be true. He's had the best care, and he's had all sorts of medicines and things that are not available to the rest of us or are only available at enormous expense. And so he's had the very best of care, and he might end up being just fine. But it's a strange new disease, new illness, and it has lots of potential problems that go along with it. And he's got comorbidities, as they say. So things could also not turn out very well for him. We don't know. We will see. But it can be tricky to reference someone in that position because you get this sense of, I don't know, like kicking them while they're down or something. That's never been what I have attempted to do, and that's never actually been what I have been doing. I am harsh in my critiques. I am unswerving, unflinching in my expressions of disgust with the way he has treated this particular topic, immigration, which is what this show is about, and the country and the truth and ethics, morals, all those things generally. And there's no reason for me to stop that now. For anyone that thinks that's not in good taste, then I'd recommend that you don't continue to listen to this show, because you're missing out on, I think, what is an important truth is we are spoken of and treated the way people feel about us, generally. So he does not feel positively towards me. He doesn't know me personally, but people like me, and or the people like the ones that I am here in defense of. And there is no reason for us to speak any differently about him than the way we feel about him. All I can say is I don't want anyone to suffer. And I certainly didn't want the 200,000+ people who have died since the beginning of this pandemic, and or all the many, many more people who were sick or lost jobs or went through all sorts of hardships because of it, and as a direct result of his handling of this. Sorry. My picture went away. What is that? I don't understand. I just got a new card. Okay. Anyway, hopefully for you that was not an interruption. For me, that was very weird because it just went off for a second and then came back on. Lost my train of thought. Anyway, so I'm going to proceed onward with my usual kind of show, and by the time you see this, maybe you'll know more about it. Maybe we will all know more about it if you wait to watch this on UPTV, you'll probably know a lot more about it than I know at the moment. But that's where we are right now, and that's my attitude at this moment. So yeah, anyway, I will proceed with my usual forthrightness, directness, however you want to put it. We'll begin today's reading with an article entitled "A Nation of Immigrants No More." On the campaign trail in August 2016, then-candidate Donald Trump departed from his typical stump speech to give an uncharacteristically detailed address in Phoenix that would define his immigration agenda for the next 4 years. His thesis was simple. The U.S. immigration system was broken in a way that served the needs of wealthy donors, political activists, and powerful politicians, Trump told the crowd. Let me tell you who it doesn't serve. It doesn't serve you, the American people. He proceeded to describe in laundry list fashion how he would reinvent the immigration system for what he said was the benefit of American citizens, painting an inaccurate portrait of immigrants as violent criminals and low-skilled workers at stealing American jobs and draining taxpayer resources. Editorial aside, virtually none of that is true in any way. And, I feel compelled to just jump in and make that statement, because this is the kind of thing you've heard over and over from anti-immigration folks, and that has become just part of the dialogue that we all share, even though most of us, or some of us anyway, or at least the people I know, understand it to be completely not true. There are immigrants who are criminals. There are immigrants who are not criminals. Immigrants are all sorts of people. There are low-skilled workers. There are high-skilled workers who are immigrants. No one is stealing anybody's job, because you can't steal a job. You can be given someone else's job if you do it better or for less money, or whatever. I mean, that's supposedly what the competition, the free market system capitalism is all about. You know, if I come up with a product, I sell, I don't know, corkscrews, and I make better corkscrews and can sell them for less money than you, I'm not stealing your customers. I am acquiring them because you are not giving them a product that is as good as the one that I am offering them. And similarly, if I come here and I'm able to work and do a better job and do it for less money, I'm not stealing your job. I am offering a better service to the person who is paying for that service. So there's no way you can look at that as that being a correct statement unless your idea is that Americans are entitled to jobs regardless of the kind of work that they do simply because they were born here or happen to have citizenship. And anyway, and draining taxpayer resources, again, no, that's not happening. Immigrants are seldom entitled to any benefits that would drain taxpayer resources or would cost taxpayers money. So all of that is pretty much completely across the board not true. And I just wanted to say that because I can. Unlike Trump at the debate, I can interrupt and it's fine because it's my show. It wasn't his show, but he tried to make it his. Anyway, continuing on. 4 years later, Trump has brought his restrictionist immigration agenda to fruition, despite lawsuits from activists who have challenged his policies at nearly every turn. He built impediments in Central America, at the border, in detention centers, and in immigration courts that have made obtaining asylum nearly impossible for people fleeing violence in their home countries. He vastly expanded immigration detention, rapidly returning migrants to Mexico and prosecuting every immigrant caught crossing the border without authorization. He waged a quiet and effective campaign to reduce legal immigration, using the coronavirus pandemic as an excuse to reject tens of thousands of visas and green cards. And he has skirted Congress to spend billions on his border wall, though only 5 new miles of 30-foot-high steel bollard fencing have been constructed so far, according to the San Antonio Express News earlier in August. As he seeks a second term, he's also made it clear that he hasn't finished. He still wants to end the Obama-era Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program once and for all, otherwise known as DACA, drive out the millions of unauthorized immigrants living in the U.S. and curb their political power, enact what he calls merit-based immigration reform, and pursue a slew of restrictive immigration regulations. The U.S. has already seen the harms of Trump's first-term immigration policies, which could cut deeper if he's given another 4 years. Legal immigration is plummeting, stymieing growth in the labor force and threatening the U.S.'s ability to attract global talent and recover from the coronavirus-induced recession. The U.S. has abdicated its role as a model for how a powerful country should support the world's most vulnerable people, and the millions of immigrants already living in the U.S., regardless of their legal status, have been left uncertain of their fate in the country they have come to call home. Other concerns, including the coronavirus, racial justice, and unemployment, have recently eclipsed immigration as a top motivating issue for voters. But for Trump, who currently lags former Vice President Joe Biden in the polls, restricting immigration proved a winning message in 2016, and he will likely try to replicate that strategy again. It's the thing he keeps going back to. Douglas Rivlin, Director of Communication at the immigrant advocacy group America's Voice, said, "It is his comfort zone to go after people of color and turn them into sort of specter of scary, violent people as a political strategy." Trump's 2016 speech in Arizona was an example of how immigration restrictionists who once occupied the political fringe, such as White House senior advisor Stephen Miller and former U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, have crystallized anti-immigrant rhetoric into policy. He outlined an aggressive agenda: build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. Implement a zero-tolerance policy meant to prosecute and detain every immigrant who crossed the border without authorization. Hire another 5,000 border agents and triple the number of Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, or ICE, to track down unauthorized immigrants living in the U.S. block sanctuary cities that refuse to cooperate with ICE from receiving federal funding. He has called for blocking travelers from countries deemed to be security threats due to inadequate screening, including Syria and Libya, a version of the Muslim ban he first proposed in 2015. And he promised sweeping reforms to the legal immigration system meant to keep immigrants as a share of the U.S. population down, such as by granting visas based on an applicant's skills and ability to be financially self-sufficient. The agenda he outlined has become America's reality. Trump's travel ban, first introduced in 2017 and upheld by the Supreme Court in 2018, now covers citizens of 13 countries. He is moving forward with his plan to rescind DACA, which has allowed more than 700,000 unauthorized immigrants who came to the country as children to live and work in the U.S. without fear of deportation. He has all but shut down the asylum system on the southern border and is rapidly returning tens of thousands of migrants to Mexico amid the pandemic. The total number of refugees the U.S. accepts annually has been slashed to just 18,000, the fewest in history, down from a cap of 110,000 when he took office. He has separated families to deter migrants from coming to the U.S., a practice that earned widespread bipartisan condemnation in 2018, but one the administration has recently sought to revive. Trump also proved that he didn't need Congress to pass legislation to make it harder to legally immigrate to the U.S., unilaterally imposing a wealth test on immigrants, which is now facing legal challenges, nearly doubling the cost of naturalization and creating the first ever fee on U.S. asylum applications. During the pandemic, he has temporarily blocked the entry of foreign workers coming to the U.S. on certain visas, including the sought-after H-1B visa for skilled workers. Some of Trump's promises, such as a mandatory use of the E-Verify system to make it difficult for employers to hire unauthorized immigrants, haven't come to pass. His attacks on sanctuary cities have largely been thwarted by the courts so far. Despite prominently reported ICE raids meant to make an example of unauthorized immigrants, his enforcement efforts have primarily focused on the southern border, and he hasn't proposed, let alone passed, comprehensive immigration reform, though his son-in-law and senior advisor, Jared Kushner, has reportedly been working on it for months. But in pursuing these policies, Trump has given a platform to immigration restrictionists who have long waited for the opportunity to enact their wish list, including those at the Center for Immigration Studies and the Federation for American Immigration Reform, groups founded by white nationalists John Tanton, who advocated for maintaining a European-American majority population. And it's caused a shift in his party. Even business-minded Republicans who have historically advocated for an expansion of legal immigration have bowed to their party's anti-immigration wing, offering weak opposition to the president's most extreme immigration policies, including the travel ban. Yep, and these are facts, everyone. Presidents have broad legal authority over immigration, though only Congress is able to shape the nation's immigration laws. The president can unilaterally reinterpret those laws and exercise discretion in setting priorities for enforcement. Courts have historically deferred to the president on immigration matters, particularly those involving issues of national security. Trump has tested the limits of that power to restrict immigration, rapidly churning out new policies, mostly by executive action, and hoping that at least some of them survive judicial review. In a second term, Trump would likely rely on the same mechanisms to pursue some of these items still on his agenda, ending DACA and eroding immigrants' political power through the census. And even though he won't be facing re-election, he'll likely be tempted to return to the subject of immigration simply because it resonates with his base. I believe President Trump is someone who wants to maintain his popularity with his fans even if he's not facing re-election, said Teresa Cardinal Brown, Director of Immigration and Cross-Border Policy at the Bipartisan Policy Center. Immigration is something he knows his fans really like, and there are a lot of things he promised to do that he didn't get done. Trump is already laying the groundwork to move forward with terminating DACA, a proposal that faces broad public opposition outside a minority of Republicans. He first tried to end the program in 2017, spurring a years-long legal battle that culminated in the Supreme Court's June ruling preventing the administration from doing so without a more robust rationale, a decision that many thought would mark the end of his war on the program. Instead, the president went back to the drawing board. The Department of Homeland Security is reviewing DACA further, examining its legality and impact on immigration trends, and blocking new applications in the meantime. I have concluded that the DACA policy, at a minimum, presents serious policy concerns that may warrant its full rescission, Chad Wolf, the acting Secretary of Homeland Security, wrote in a policy memorandum in July. At the same time, I have concluded that fully rescinding the policy would be a significant administration decision that warrants additional careful consideration. Once the review is complete, the administration could terminate DACA using the same method it employed in 2017, but with another, more thorough memo. That could throw into doubt the future of hundreds of thousands of DACA recipients, as well as the more than 66,000 people who have become eligible for the program since the administration stopped accepting new applicants in 2017. Congress has struggled to pass legislation offering them permanent protections, which they have awaited for nearly 2 decades, and the administration has indicated it would deport them if they lose their legal status. It's hard to imagine those deportations actually coming to pass, considering how politically unpopular it would be. What's more likely is that Trump is merely using DACA recipients as a bargaining chip to help achieve his larger agenda, designing an immigration program that is primarily concerned with keeping people out, one that puts America first and makes life intolerable for all but the few immigrants who can come legally. One component of that agenda is Trump's efforts to use the 2020 census to erode immigrants' political power over the next decade. After the Supreme Court ruled against his attempt to put citizenship question on the census last year, he issued an executive order that instructed the Census Bureau to instead estimate the citizenship data using enhanced state administrative records. In July, he revealed how he intended to use that data. He issued a memo excluding unauthorized immigrants living in the U.S. from census population counts for the purpose of redrawing congressional districts in 2021. There used to be a time when you could proudly declare, "I am a citizen of the United States," Trump said in a statement in July. But now the radical left is trying to erase the existence of this concept and conceal the number of illegal aliens in our country. This is all part of a broader left-wing effort to erode the rights of American citizens, and I will not stand for it. Okay, I have to take another break here because that's so ridiculous. All right, just think about that for a second. Presumably I would be considered to be a member of the radical left, which, according to Trump, is anybody who is not full-on John Birch society. So we're trying to erase the existence of this concept that someone could proudly declare, "I am a citizen of the United States." Why? What is this? Broader left-wing effort to erode the rights of American citizens. Okay, why? I am an American citizen. Why do I want to erode my rights? In order to admit more immigrants into the country? Why is it a zero-sum game? If I say, yes, come in, here are some rights for you, it doesn't take rights away from me to give them to you. It's not like there's a finite number of rights. 5 rights that you have, nobody else has. It's just these 5. And if anybody else gets them, well, you got to give them up in order to give it to them. That's not how it works. And it doesn't even make sense that it might work that way. I mean, this is an example of what politicians do a lot of, and it's really annoying, where they say something that sounds like it means something. And if you're listening and you're not a critical thinker, you're just listening, you hear, "Oh, well, there used to be a time you could proudly declare, I'm a citizen of the United States." Ah, I remember those times, I guess. I mean, it just sounds like, yeah, there must have been a time where people would stand up and go, I'm a citizen, and be very proud about it, and everybody would be like, oh, that's impressive. Good for you. But now the radical left is trying to erase the existence of this concept. Well, that doesn't mean anything at all. We're trying to erase the existence of the concept that someone could once proudly declare that they're a citizen. That's just that's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. And conceal the number of illegal aliens in our country. I'm not trying to conceal anything. I don't know anyone who is. We're actually trying to change the fact that they are considered illegal, or because of their lack of documentation. We're not trying to hide anything. If anything, we're trying to protect them from being attacked by people like you. But so that again is it sounds like something. It sounds like it means something, like, oh, you're trying to hide something. You're doing something nefarious here. And then finally, it's part of a broader left-wing effort to erode the rights of American citizens. And that goes back to what I said before. It's not like rights are limited. There's only this much pie, and if you come in and you get a slice, then we all get less. But that's not how rights work. I mean, you could give everyone in the world the same amount of rights, same number of rights, whatever, the same degree of right. I don't know how you would put it, but you could give rights to everyone in the world and not take them away from anybody. The only way you're taking something away from someone when you give something similar to someone else is their ability to dominate, to oppress, to be on top of. Like, I control this area. That is my right. Well, if it's my right to control this area, then if you come in and say, well, I want to be in this room too, and I say yes, then I have given up some of my right to control this area. But also, we're assuming that the United States is not just one person. So we have a few million people running around the United States, letting in even 1 million more. It's not taking anything away from them except their exclusive right to control this area. So basically, that's saying something, but it's saying something in a weird kind of roundabout way that makes it sound like this is something bad. So citizens, proudly declared citizens of the United States, by allowing other people to come in and have rights here, we are indeed giving up our sole and exclusive rights to have total say, have the only say in how things are done, in who gets what, all sorts of things like that. I mean, so yeah, in that sense, it is true that by allowing more people in, you do give up something. But it would also be true, by the same token, that if you closed off all the borders of the United States, build a huge wall, no one could come in or go out. You have, let's say, 1 million people here. If those 1 million people have children, and those children grow up to become full-fledged citizens,